Hi guys, welcome to my channel again. We are doing a Tomes and Treasures class recommendation video. So we have taken 6 classes each. We are doing the same 6 classes that we did for our vlogs. So one has come out, one hasn't, but we are doing the same ones. So you are getting 6 classes, 3 magical, 3 martial, and I'm going to recommend some books to you. So Jen will have the other ones. This is going out at the same time, so you'll be able to check them both out at the same time. And I hope that you enjoy. And if you are struggling with picking a class, maybe this will help you to figure it out. So the first class that I'm going to talk about is Bard, and that is musical or a lyrical aspect. Also, it is quite late. I didn't plan to film this late, but it's quiet, so I'm doing that. So I did not have time to pick out all of the books, so they will appear here when I am talking about them. So the first book that I'm picking is Dungeons and Drama. So this is a YA contemporary romance about a girl who is obsessed with musicals and gets in a little bit of trouble, so she gets grounded by having to work in her father's game shop, and it starts a fake romance between her and the nerdy boy who works there, and it is very cute, very sweet, and there are so many musical aspects to this book. There is just so many musical references, and it is so beautiful and it is so cute, and I read this book in a day and it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. The second book that I'm going to talk about is called This Song Will Save Your Life. This is again a YA contemporary, but it is a bit more on the serious side. This talks about a girl who goes through like essentially what you assume is a mental breakdown. It doesn't really tell you straight away, but this girl's gone through a lot and she is struggling, and she finds DJing, and it is her learning how to DJ and kind of becoming more herself. It's a really good book. I've not read it in years, but I remember reading this book and absolutely adoring it. Also, it is very light on the romance, and it is very much more about like a book about self-discovery, which I don't think you get a lot of in YA, and I think that we should have more of it, if I'm being perfectly honest, because romantic love is not the only love. And yeah, it's a very good book. I really recommend it. Like I said, it is a little bit heavier, but not too heavy at the same time. The final book that I'm talking about for Bard is Daisy Jones and the Six. I felt like it would be wrong to not put this in, because this is such a well-known book about musical aspects, and this book is told in snippets of interviews of a band called Daisy Jones and the Six, and it talks about how they came together, how they became a band in the first place, and how they eventually broke up, and it is phenomenal. I've really enjoyed this book. The audiobook is fantastic. It has a full cast of narrators. Highly recommend if you're into it, if you've not read it already. The next one is Druid, and the prompt for Druid is Nature Aspect or Shifter. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Bride. Bride is a shifter romance, and it is Omegaverse, and I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, and this book is fantastic. It is Ali Hazelwood, so you get very much a kind of like, you get the banter that you get with Ali Hazelwood, and it has just like this really fresh twist on it. So this is about Mercy, who is a vampire who ends up having to marry a werewolf to basically like bridge a gap between the werewolves and the vampires, and she does, and it talks about it's an Ali Hazelwood romance. What do you think happens? It's very good. I really enjoyed this book. The next book I'm going to talk about is This Poison Heart. So this is a book about a girl with nature powers, and she suddenly inherits this house and starts to kind of find out who she is, and it is full of twists and turns, and this book is marketed as a fantasy, a young adult fantasy, and I think that it is a soft horror, and I will not be taking questions about that. I adored this book. This book quickly became one of my favourite Kaelin Bayron books I've ever read, and I think the horror aspects in this book are not talked about, because if I'd known that the horror aspects were there, I'd have picked this up quicker. It was fantastic. So good. So good. The final book is just a way to kind of stretch it, and I picked The Martian. So The Martian is about a guy who gets, he's on a journey to Mars, and he gets stranded on Mars. And you may be wondering, that doesn't seem very natural. One, Mars is part of nature. Not the Earth's nature, but it's part of nature. But also, the guy is a botanist, and he has to learn how to grow plants on Mars. That is the nature aspect. I will be taking no further questions. My next class is Monk, and this is a book featuring training. So the first book that I'm going to do is another bit of a stretch, and it is Check and Mate. So this book is about a girl who is basically a chess prodigy, and she doesn't do chess anymore because of something that happened in her life, and she goes to do a charity match or something like that and ends up in the world of chess. And this book contains a lot of training for chess, and I really enjoyed this book. I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did, but it was a fantastic book. I really enjoyed it. The next book is Jade City. So this is a book about gang members and warring clans. However, there is a school where they can go to wield Jade and be able to understand how to use Jade, and that is training. They train to use Jade and train to go into the gangs, and to me that's training. The final book that I'm going to talk about on this one is The Poppy War. So this is about a girl called Rin who does not want to deal with what her life is going to be. So instead of allowing herself to get married off, she trains to, she learns and goes for the exams to go into one of the most prestigious schools in the country. And she manages it, and then she trains for a war. And when she goes to that war, but there is a lot of training in this book, as you can imagine. The next class is Paladin, and this is a book with a promise, and I'm stretching it in the first instance because I've picked Empire of the Vampire. I will get that right eventually. Empire of the Vampire. And the reason I picked this, it is about a guy called Gabriel who is telling his story as a Silver Saint and just what he's done in the past to rid the world of vampires and start wars and things like that. And it's very interesting. However, the reason that I picked this was because the Silver Saints to me are paladins. They make a promise to kill vampires. They are on a mission from God. They are God's holy warriors. That is a paladin. The next book that I picked was Kings of the Wild. So this is a book where we have our main character Claire, who gets visited by an old friend of his from back when they did adventuring partying with him and his mates, and his friend comes back and says, my daughter is trapped. I need you to come and help me get the band back together so we can save my daughter. And there's a lot of promises in here, but basically Claire promises to help his friend, and he does. So that is a promise. It is a book with a promise. The final book is another stretch, and this is spoiler alert. So this is a book about a fanfiction writer who ends up getting attacked on Twitter, and one of the actors from the TV show that she writes fanfiction for messages her and says, you look great, we should go out on a date. Is that technically a promise? No, but he does go out on the date, so I think that he promised her that he would go out with her, and he did it. And I'm classing it. My next class is Rogue. So this can be thieves, assassins, criminals, or underground dealings. So there's a lot we can unpack with this. I'm still only doing 3, and the first one is a stretch. I wanted to put in one for my read along, which is Mass Along, which is where we read all of the Sarah J. Maas books, and it felt like I really had to put this in. So we are going to be reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, and A Court of Thorns and Roses would definitely work for this. The blurb about this book, no one needs to hear because most people know it, but if you don't know, it is about Feyre, who goes into the woods one day and she kills what she thinks is an animal, but it turns out to be a fae. So she assassinates a fae, and then she has to go and go to the fairylands in instead of that, and things happen. There are other reasons why I picked this book, but I'm not going to tell you because I don't know if Tori's watching this, and Tori has not read it, and she's going to be reading it for Massalong, and I'm not going to spoil it. But I will talk about it on Massalong if she wants to know why I picked this for Rogue. The next book that I picked was The Lies of Loch Lamora. So this book is about the gentleman bastards and their delving into crime. It is a heist book. It has so many twists and turns. It has thieves, it has assassins, it has criminals, it has underground dealings, it has everything in this category. I could not put this in there. The final book I'm putting in here is a little bit of a cheat, and it is Kith and Kin. This is the story of Vex and Vax before Vox Machina, and it goes through a specific time in their life. I'm not going to tell you too much about this because I feel like if I tell you too much about it, it would be a spoiler. However, just so that you know, this book is something that you can read prior to watching any of the campaign or the animated series, and it is phenomenal. It's a very, very fun, quick, easy adventure, but Vax is a rogue, so it works. My final class is Warlock, and this one is a book with a deal. So this could be quite similar to a book with promise, but we're going to go with a deal. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This book is very quickly becoming a favourite. I love this book so much, and I'm reading book 2 now, and it's phenomenal. So in this book, we follow Aurea, who is a human in the vampire world, and she has to go into this kind of challenge thing where it is basically the Hunger Games, and there are a lot of deals that are made because people make deals and go, I won't kill you if you don't kill me, so we can survive until the end. And there are other things that happen. There's a lot of deals in this. It's phenomenal. Very, very much enjoy it. I'm so excited to finish this book, and I can't wait to read any more from this author. I'm not going to lie. The next book is the second book in the Dreamlands Billionaires series, and this is Terms and Conditions. This is about one of the brothers whose name completely escapes me at the moment. Is it Declan? It might be Declan. I don't know. Either way, he is wanting to take over his grandfather's business, and in the will it says that he must marry someone within a year and start to go into the process of having children with this person, and he can't find a bride. So his assistant turns around and goes, look, I'll make a deal, you do this and then I will do this for you. So they go into a deal and they try and fake marry. It is great. It's fantastic. I love this book. I love this series. I'm so scared to read the final offer, but I love the first 2 so much because they're fantastic. The final book that I'm going to recommend for you is The Wicked and the Divine. This is a graphic novel series that is about how every 90 years people are changed into gods, and the gods live for so many years or months or whatever, and then they die. And this series is batshit, and there are a lot of deals and there's a lot of things that go on, and I would even say that there are deals that go on to become a god in some sense. Am I making this up? Probably. However, I really, really enjoyed this book. This series is one of my favourite graphic novel series, and it just works really well, and I love it so much. And those were my recommendations. So if you want to see the other 6 classes, please go over to Gem's channel. She has some amazing ideas for those books, and I can't wait to watch her video. And yeah, let me know if there's any books that you would specifically have for any of these classes. Let me know if you've read any of these books and you agree or disagree with them. And yeah, I will talk to you guys later. Bye guys.